Hi. So I'm going to try and do it. Finally, I've finished the book literally a few minutes ago. The Foundations of Controlled Remote Viewing. This is the book. Um, so who's it been written by? Tom Mc, Tom McNear. Sorry about that. Tom McNear. So he was the first person to have learned remote viewing, and as far as I understand from the book, he learned like the most stages as well from Ingo directly. Okay, so uh, nobody's talking about anything but their experiences. So I would actually say, before I mention the other authors, this book, you could call it a kind of Bible. It's a big, thick book. Um, because there's a lot of information in there. And of course, it'd be controversial to call it a Bible because not all the information in there. I was trained with Lynn Buchanan. I invited Lynn to Germany to early 2000s, and he trained a group of us. And I noticed that what he taught worked, and I had experiences with it. Were they all good experiences? No, they weren't. I actually was like shocked, and I've told him that. He knows that by the targets. And so let me just continue. The other author is Paul H. Smith, editor, and Jana Rogge. And apart from Tom, I've interviewed everyone else on there. It's a good book. It's a good book. Now, is the review's over? It's a good book. Yeah. Obviously not. I would call it written more in a scientific style. It starts literally with scientific papers and an introduction from Hal Puthoff. There's a lot of nice illustrations in the book as well. The Because it's been written in a scientific way, you've got people who are trying to say things that are factual. Well, like I say, are saying things that are factual that they can back up, and so you have Hal Puthoff's written a chapter. Russell Targ's written a chapter. Tom McNear's written like a whole section on the remote viewing manual. Okay, and he kind of says, yeah, if I'd known this was going to be published later, I probably would have written it quite differently. So he makes some notes about that, and he's telling of his experience and the way he understands remote viewing. And it's interesting because Paul Smith has a PhD. Obviously, Hal Puthoff has a PhD. Russell Targ, I believe, also has a PhD, and Tom McNear, I don't know. Doesn't really matter. What you do have is you have people approaching this with a very factual, here's my reference information, or I don't have reference information for this. Yeah, so you'll find at the end of the chapter by Russell Targ, you'll just find loads of references, like he's saying this information can be got here. There's backup information over here, and so on. There's background information here. And it kind of follows this format. It does go into a lot of detail, in more detail on the manual, and then you have a whole section again from Paul Smith on the manual, and you have really useful so I actually describe this as a source book. Yeah, and a source book is a collection of essays. But they're obviously related to remote viewing. And I do believe there's remote viewing by Ingo Swann and there's remote viewing, by other people. And I don't think it's necessarily wrong or bad that some of the people have developed their own genre or style. Because why do I say that? Because Ingo actually says it's more of an art than a science. I might be misquoting, so sorry about that. But it's something like that. The more you get into it, and the more they do, scientific research, they sort of realize it's coming from this creative heart. Excellent views on the ideogram. So there's quite a lot of detail in the ideogram. There's arguments for and against different approaches, I think. And I think, rumour has it that some people tell stories. Well, what a surprise. Some people tell stories, yeah? And does that irk other people? What a surprise. That does irk other people. There's a whole thing on bilocation. So it's interesting because I actually have always had the feeling like you're always bilocated when you're remote viewing a little bit or more. Okay, got to put this on pause. Got a plane taking off next door. Oh no, it's taken off. It's gone. Hopefully you can still hear me. And there's a lot of timeline where these people who are promoting remote viewing with a lot of time and a lot of effort. They're obviously there's a lot of work that's gone into this book. It's a fantastic book. I'm so thrilled and I'm very grateful. And I'll own up that Jana sent me a copy, and I said, Jana, I'll do a review. And I'll do a review as honestly as I can. I think it's a fantastic book. And as somebody who's come on, it's no secret, I've come on to difficulties with remote viewing, explain where I've come onto difficulties. I actually find here's information which I go, oh, actually, I think this approach here, that'd be better for me. So I'm not saying it's wrong, because I've done many years of Kung Fu, and you find that one thing works for one person and it doesn't work for another. What a surprise. Again, what a surprise. All right. One thing that I like, and it's a quote from Ingo, is words are mind traps, which I just think is wonderful, because we all find us getting caught by words. And yes, I think in many ways, I think Ingo would be probably, and this is me channeling my internal Ingo, I think Ingo would be very proud of the book. I think he'd be proud of it because in a way he's saying, the book does say, okay, this is what factually happened. Now what other people are saying, we don't necessarily agree with that. And I think if Ingo, he'd obviously be for that. And the other thing is that it's not trying to say, no, what anybody's doing is wrong. It's a development, but let's just say it's a development. And we see this again. I know, in fact, it was Lynn said to me, like, think of it like a martial art, a mental martial art. And I think that's a very good analogy. So thank you, Lynn. Because in martial arts, you have people that develop new things, and they say, I'm going to try this, and I'm going to train it. And there's nothing wrong with that. At the end of the day, the proof of the pudding is, are you on target, and did you get the information? So, and I think that's that really comes over in the book. So yes, I think it could be seen as a divisive book, because somebody said something, and probably, yeah, if you look at the if you look at the research on memory, says memory is completely unreliable. So we need bits of paper or photos, or yeah. And by the way, of course, your memory tells you it's reliable. So yeah, I mean, and that goes for me as well. So anyway, what else? Yeah, I think if I'm going to talk about the purpose of the book, the purpose of the book is, as I say, it's for some people it's going to be to confirm what they already think and to have something written down about what they already think. For other people, it's going to be, this is another way of doing it. And I'm going to put a challenge out there. If you think that your way is the right way, then you're in a cult. Yeah, we're not in a cult. Yeah, remote viewing. I'm sure Ingo absolutely never ever want to start a remote viewing cult. There's more than one way to skin a rabbit. Try which way works for you, and you as they say, you should engage with people who have an opposite opinion to you, and that's the way you're going to learn the most. If you have feedback or any questions to my review, I have read the book literally from cover to cover, and it's actually inspired me to do a little bit more remote viewing. And I would say what I'd like to see is a book which is a little bit more softer. So I spoke with Tobias, who's written a book. I'd really like to review that. But I'd like to see a book which is almost talking about, with transcriptions and descriptions of what was going on. So when I've written books about energy work, I've tried to sort of say, well, inside I was having this process. All right, so book recommendation. If you're looking for a book which may challenge some views you have, or confirm some information you have, or you want to check something out, yeah, I would say it's a great book. If you just want to think the way you think and don't want any confirmation and not looking for an open forum discussion, it's not a book for you. Okay, so just follow your own way. I hope that wasn't too hard on you, but yeah, it's just my opinion. All right, so for today, I would say that's it. So keep on viewing.